Thanks for joining me again. Well, today I thought I'd have a quick chat about clearance rates. The last month or so we've seen clearance rates come off from about that 70-75% down around that 50-55% mark. And in particular, I've had quite a few owners say to me, Dave, we've seen the clearance rates come down, is it really a good idea to auction? Well, there's a couple of points I'd like to make. Firstly, we have to remember that not every auction that's passed in is a sign of an unsuccessful auction campaign. Now, what do I mean by that? Well, take an example like this. We had a program a few weeks ago where this property went to auction. All the buyer feedback had been anything from about the 360 up to about the 380, 390 mark. Now, the owner set a reserve price that was above the 400 mark. We had 4 registered bidders on the day. Very competitive bidding on the day as well. A little bit of negotiation during the auction saw the price get up to that 400 mark, which is what we recommended the owner be selling at. So we've got to 400. The owner turns around and says, no, I want 420. Now, 4 registered bidders at the auction, competitive bidding, above that feedback level, and certainly just that little bit above what comparable properties had been selling for. Now, there's only one person who saw that auction as being unsuccessful. Unfortunately, yes, it was the owner, but it really did achieve what we set out to achieve. We had multiple buyers on the property. We did get to a level that was just a little bit above what market had been set with other similar properties. So, as I say, it went in the Sunday paper as a passed-in auction, but really, it wasn't really an unsuccessful program. We also find that a lot of properties that fail to sell at auction quite often tend to sell immediately after the auction, mostly as a result of the activity that it's had through that 3 to 4 week marketing program. Now, sometimes there's buyers who aren't quite ready to commit. They might have only just seen the property in that final week of the program and they're still having a think about it, or maybe the auction programs unearthed a buyer who just wasn't in a position to bid yet. Maybe they were waiting on the sale of another property or still waiting to get their finance approved so they could bid on an unconditional basis. Now, some of these things, they all say that the auction program was a success, it did unearth the buyer, it just didn't happen to sell on the day. Now, the other thing we need to really take care to have a look at is that we're comparing apples with apples. Now, what do I mean by this? Well, I don't want to compare apples with oranges, so when I'm looking at an auction clearance rate, I have to look at what I'm comparing that to. Now, a lot of people, especially when it's down around that 50-55% mark, tend to say, well, Dave, 50-55%, that's not very good. Because you know why? They're comparing it to 100%. When do you ever see 100% of property sell? Never. And that's my point. What we need to compare that clearance rate, whether it's 50, 55, 70, 75, whatever that figure is at the time, we need to compare that to the percentage of properties that have sold unconditionally that were put for sale at the same time. So what I'm talking about is this. The clearance rate, say it's 55%, it means that of all the people who put their property to auction 4 weeks ago have now sold unconditionally for a price they're happy with, deposits paid, sold stickers up, they're moving in 4 to 6 weeks. Okay? Now, if we compare that to the percentage of people who put their property for sale 4 weeks ago that have now sold unconditionally for a price they're happy with, money in the bank, sold sticker up, moving in 4 to 6 weeks, my experience tells me that we'll always be looking at a lower figure. Look at it like this. You put your property for sale, okay? Most people want to they start with a little bit higher price just to test the market. Of course, everybody's fear is underselling. So in that initial period, they put their price a little bit higher just to see what happens. You never know, we might get that lucky buyer, okay? After a couple of weeks, they haven't sold, maybe they're looking at the price, they need to work out whether they're going to adjust it or not. But say they do get that buyer in that first 2 to 3 week period, which is when they really should be looking at getting that sale, because we know that your best chance of getting the best price is early on, when your property first hits the market. But say they do get that buyer in that first 2 to 3 weeks, of course, then, most of the time, you're going to go through a cooling off period. Now, in New South Wales, that cooling off period is 5 days. Sometimes, quite often, it's extended to 10. So how many people do you think put their house for sale and have it sold, a buyer signing a contract, even with a cooling off period, within that first couple of weeks? Yeah, the percentage isn't that high, I'm here to tell you. So I would say when auction clearance rates are 50-55%, you probably find the percentage of people who are selling their house unconditionally within 4 weeks by following a private treaty program is probably more like about the 25 to 30% mark. And that is really what we should be comparing those clearance rates to. Anyway, for any real estate advice, please give me a call, David Meadowcroft, on 0412 247 818. You can free call me on 1800 30 20 27 or drop me a line, david@davidmeadowcroft.com. Thanks for joining me. Until next time, we'll see you soon. Thanks.